At Maximum Mediocrity, people say things like,
I don't dress like this on the regular basis. This isn't my, pooping uniform. This is not
and they also say things like,
The nurses are usually either angels of mercy or whores.
Every episode is a new experience where you get to know people that aren't famous but should be.
Why am I facing Floyd Mayweather in the woods?
My co-host Morgan and I track down the people you didn't know you needed to hear from.
It's like hot sex in a mug.
We are the Maximum Mediocrity Podcast, and we are on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be waiting for you.
Hi listeners, I'm Carolina.
And I'm Tessa, and together we are Femme Regard Podcast.
Femme.
We are a show dedicated to educating and entertaining underdeveloped filmmakers and film enthusiasts alike.
We love sharing our experiences as filmmakers, what we've learned and what we've gone through.
And we love bringing on professional industry guests.
We want our listeners to learn from the best and get an honest account of the biz.
So come join the Femme Fam and give us a listen every Friday.
Streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including YouTube and our website, femregard.com, and of course, the Geekscape Network.
We're back with another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week we're talking about The Nest from 1988, and we've got a surprise guest, even to us, the hosts. Sitting on so guys, we never kicked Brian out of the Horror Movie Night host chat because in our heart and souls we always believed that Brian would be coming back to the show.
Plus, he's your biological brother.
Well, I always feel bad that we're blowing up his spot because he doesn't really chime in that much in the group chat.
It's like sharing an Amazon Prime account and then realizing you have a million charges from that person that you gave your old college roommate you gave the password to.
Exactly. And
except luckily he doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah, I guess I just dropped the link at the exact time that Brian had nothing else to do, so he's back, folks, to talk about a movie he hasn't watched. Do you have it on right now, Brian? Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
Jump to 45 minutes into this movie.
Yeah, you don't need the people.
I'll try to skim through. I actually didn't properly check on YouTube. I looked up Killer Bugs 1988, and then you just said the movie was called The Nest. So.
It's called The Nest.
It's on Tubi.
Gotcha.
Oh, for listeners, if you have not watched it yet, you can go to our Trello, Brian, by the way. It's on our Tubi. Mm-hmm. It's on our Trello for two.
I'm on ad 2 of 7 for Tubi to start this movie.
Oh, also, if you turn on, I figured something out. So some unfortunate events befell me. My laptop was stolen, and my wonderful wife was kind enough to give me her other laptop. I made a second profile. I lost months of design work and tablature for my band's record, but it's fine. I know how to play it all, so it's fine. That said, I rebuilt everything that I needed, and I reinstalled Ghostery, and I'm watching The Nest, and I'm watching next week's movie, which is also on Tubi, and I'm this is awesome, because every time it comes to a commercial, it shows the first half second, and then it ends. And so I don't have to watch commercials because Ghostery blocks commercials on Tubi. So it's truly free for one, and it's also I don't have to waste time on ads. So Tubi is truly the best.
I love that.
I had the DVD for this one, but next week's movie. Yeah, the ads definitely added about 15 to 20 minutes to the viewing experience.
They're awful. And they're targeted, and so they really they think they know you, but all they do is give you a complex. We've talked about it before recently.
Yeah, you get a lot of dick pills. We know.
Not anymore, I don't.
All right, so I picked this one This was a very, very early Scream Factory release, was how I first heard of it.
Yeah.
And it was at one point Scream Factory, so as many of you might know, there was a long period of time where I was just getting Blu-rays in the mail for free from Scream Factory to review. But the way that happened was that originally they were sending them to Jonathan from Geekscape, and he's like, I don't want to watch this shit. So he like emailed them and was like, hey, I'm not the right person from Geekscape. This is the address of the person you should be sending this to.
Not your name. Does it come to Jonathan London at your address?
No, it's still Matt Kelly, but he sent me a care package of all the stuff that they sent him that he did not want, and this was in there.
Amazing.
If you've seen the cover, it is a woman being attacked by a giant cockroach. So, of course, when I opened the box and saw that, I was like, well, this is going into the Blu-ray player.
Yeah.
And for a really long time, my memory was like, God, this movie is slow.
I thought so too. And
this
is only my second full watch. Actually, this might be my first full watch because I don't think that I paid very good attention to it the first time I watched it. Because this would have been in the first 50 episodes of this podcast if I had remembered correctly.
Well, that's the thing, and it sat on the ground, it just sat on a shelf untouched. And again, listeners of the show know about Weird Ass Movie Night, and I've been really trying to make there be themes. So the 1 month, the theme was like something tied to like insects and bugs. Because it's always, what do I want the final feature to be? And I wanted the final feature to be ticks. So I was like retrofitting. And I'm like, I don't know. We can throw on the Nest as the first movie since no one pays attention.
Ticks is the movie that comes up on Tubi after this, by the way.
Perfect. But
I had slugs. I had slugs on mine.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was slugs, and then you're right. It was slugs, and then in the suggested, ticks was the next one down. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But when we were watching it a couple months ago for Weird Ass Movie Night, it was what I kind of remembered. Because obviously people are coming in and talking. I'm like, man, this is really slow. And then the third act happens, and I'm just like, how the fuck have we not done this movie for Weird Ass Movie Night? And it immediately went on the list. Because, the first half of this movie, you're kind of like setting up, like, this is a small town. Like, these are the folks. It has a couple, I don't want to say what movie its plot line reminds me of because it's my double feature, but there's a lot of like similar beats, and I like how they like slowly roll out what the concept. I mean, the movie's called The Nest. As an audience member, you know what it's
with
about.
a giant cockroach on the front cover.
On the front, but like when he goes to talk to the librarian, and she's like, all the kids are coming in and ripping the books apart, and he's like, well, bugs have been known to like chew the glue out of books, and she's like, not an entire library's worth in one night. And you're like, oh man, these are some pretty fucked up bugs, I guess.
I only have one qualm with this movie, and it's the fact that the dog dies first.
Man, the dog dies first, and the only thing worse than the dog dying, because at least we don't see the dog dying, is watching the cat die is one of the most unhinged things I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really fucking rough.
Hated that. And you know what I used to quell that? I had the support and got kittens and canoes.
Much better. If they had canoes, if they were in canoes, they would have gotten away from.
There was that motorized raft right there.
Yeah, literally.
A nice and this is a New England style pale ale. So
perfect.
We're in New England.
What do you got over there?
So I was like, I wanted to go out and get some bug juice, some of that awful green sugar water, and Megan's like, don't go out.
Water.
And she was like, she looked up cockroach milk. And I was like, what are you doing? And she said, cockroach milk is real, and it's made from cockroaches. And I'm like, do you mean it's the insides of cockroaches? And she's like, yeah, there's even an NPR article about how it's like a protein of the future. And I'm like, you're insane. And she was like, why don't you just make like a white Russian? And I'm like, how about I make a black Russian and with some almond milk? And I call it it's a cockroach milk.
Oh, look at that! Look at that!
I mean, it's so for listeners who, if you pay for Patreon, you can see that it's basically like it's a white Russian without the vodka in it. So it's literally just like mostly some milk and then a little bit of Kahlua because Daddy's a lightweight.
Yeah. So I want to explain
gorgeous.
to the audience who may not have watched The Nest this cat scene for a couple seconds. Because what happens with these
because it's fucked up.
Yeah. Explain it to the people that didn't watch it.
So So when the dog dies, it's that you see the dog and the dog starts freaking out and there's just like some rustling in the grass and then they find like a fully filleted dog corpse in the grass and they're like, something ate all of its flesh off. So they use a cat as live bait, and to the best of my abilities to explain what happens in the filming of this scene is that a cat is trapped in a box and there is some mechanism in the box spraying this cat with fake blood as it is freaking out at the fact that it's getting wet with a weird goo and is screaming. And they're just like, man, these cockroaches are crazy. And I'm thinking the filmmakers are the crazy ones. Why would you film this like this? Like,
and I, the only thing that makes it better is that as the movie goes on, surprisingly few cockroaches are smushed, which is one thing I do appreciate. I think that there may be like less than 10 cockroaches that you actually see smushed.
There are a lot of flicks, a lot of like swipes away, a lot of just like, get out of here, and bugs.
I'm not saying
because they're using a lot of real cockroaches. Like,
but okay, so the hobby etymologist in me is like, they're using 3 kinds of cockroaches. This is so unbelievable. But the other side of me is like, I don't want to come off as someone who's saying that like bugs shouldn't be smushed in a movie. Like that's, like I'm never gonna watch Cannibal Holocaust, right? But I'm never.
There's a bridge there. Yeah.
Yes, like bugs. I think that it's pointless to smush bugs in movies because you could just have some fake goo. It's not really going to add anything to the movie. Also, like a lot of cockroaches, I'm assuming a lot of these roaches that were in this movie are feeder roaches, except for the hissing cockroaches, which
you can tell because they're always yelling acting at the end of their scenes.
Yeah.
You know that they're theater cockroaches because of the bloopers where they keep breaking into soliloquies from Shakespeare plays.
End scene.
I'm not trying to say that the bugs shouldn't be smushed. I just think it's great that they didn't really smush a lot because it would have been like way more over the top in like an unnecessary way because like you don't really need to see the bugs getting smushed because this movie is so funny and it knows exactly what it is. It's
that's
hilarious.
Why I love like the character
I didn't think
Homer
it did though. For the first part of it, I didn't think it knew what it was.
Does. Dude,
like
think about that's what I think I got from this watch of it is that I have to give the creators tons of credit because they really the pacing surprisingly is good for the amount of interpersonal relationships that they're like throwing at you. They're all fun people. Like they're even when
I was gonna say Homer, the character of Homer is so delightful. And the second he's introduced, and she's like, "What do you mean you can't kill them? You're an exterminator." And he's like, "I am a pest control agent."
Yes.
He's like, I can't. Like,
even the most annoying character, the ditzy girl who works at the store, at the grocery store, like she is straight out of a late 80s Friday the 13th movie. She's just a dumb teenager, and that character, like none of the characters over say they're welcome. Like the most annoying person is Richard. That's the policeman, the sheriff.
Yeah.
He's the most annoying person just because he's a bad actor and he's on screen a lot. Everybody else is surprisingly solid acting for what is very, very obviously an unserious B movie. Like this movie, if this movie was made in 1958, it wouldn't have been as funny.
No.
But it really is like an 80s homage to like bug movies from the 50s, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is like a modern Deadly Mantis in a weird way. We get these cool scenes. Homer finds his friend Jake dead, and
also
that's
basically Lillian's dad.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Everybody's related to everybody.
I'm sorry, Lillian might be the most annoying person in town.
Yeah. Well,
but
Lillian has one of my favorite
scenes.
scenes. We'll get there in a second. Yeah. But this is where I'm like, okay, I'm in. Is he goes to wake up his buddy Jake, and he throws open the curtain, and it's just this like skull with a little bit of skin left on it, and like cockroaches coming out of every possible hole, and you're just like, okay, I'm in. I'm
That's
in.
the scene I saw. That's the scene I saw.
That's the scene you lived, dude.
Yeah. No, I was watching it. I was like, this is really good. And then I couldn't watch and listen, so I said, I get the gist.
Well,
And
actually,
then
you really should go to the last 15, 20 minutes because...
Yeah, because we haven't told you the craziest part yet, Brian.
Actually,
So-
you know what? I bet I can find the kill count episode on this and
send it to him.
Send
But
it to him. Yeah.
I just while you're looking for that, I just want to chime in real quick because I've been so eager to see this because of the poster art. We've referenced it earlier. Like the poster art is unreal, right?
Do you remember what happened to my copy of The Nest? Because I went looking for it. I had that. I don't know what happened to it. Fuck.
Man,
Did you sell it at a
wish I
convention?
knew. But no, so Jim Coons, who is the director, he does like a ton of special features for like every boutique company, and he also, I think he did camera on Sharksploitation, and he directed Lost Soul, the Richard Stanley doc, right?
Yeah,
he
Lost Soul.
if and this is for any like horror fan, like definitely follow him on Instagram. So he got either gifted or he found the original artwork for The Nest, like the painting for The Nest. And it was moldy and like, it wasn't in the best shape, and they did a whole restoration of it. And I don't know if he just put it on his stories or if it's on his main feed, but like he posted the restoration video from them like taking the print and cleaning the mold, and now he's got this beautiful like the original artwork for The Nest now in his office, and it's unreal. And I just like stuff like that, artwork like that is so cool. I mean, like, I don't know, it's gonna sound
because it's
silly,
rare
but the
now.
fact that they like
it's
the fact
a
that
rare
somebody
thing.
made the art physically, they had to make
that's
the
the
art,
hard
and then
part. That's the special
you know
part.
what I mean? And it's like it's so cool. So and that artwork particularly is so gnarly. Like it's the woman and the cockroach almost look like lovers. Like it's so wild. It's crazy.
Well, and also it's actually the cover is sleazier than the movie actually is.
I know. There's no
the
nudity in this
cover-
movie.
Yeah, the cover implies a
There's
lot more sleaze than's
Yes.
actually there. So Lillian, though, she's working at her job at the diner or whatever, and I absolutely was delighted by this scene where she's just trying to kill all these cockroaches any way she knows how. So, like, there's cockroaches on a cake. She just takes the whole cake and tosses it into the microwave, and you just see, the effect.
No, they're on the burger.
Or they're on the burger meat. Yeah,
Or-
she throws the burger meat in the microwave, and you see, like, the splatters of, like, bug
The cake-
guts hitting the
She goes,
the
"You want a
meat."
piece of pie?" And she like dumps the pie upside down, and then she's like, "You want a refill?" And she pours coffee on him, and then you see all these roaches going into the fryer, and like, she's a badass.
It's a wild scene.
You could
wild
set
scene.
that scene to the Benny Hill theme and just let it rock.
Honestly, I don't think that would be funnier because her quips make it.
It's true.
So good.
It's true. She's hysterical. I loved when she went head to head with Beth. Like when she was like, "When you're out of town, like he's mine" or whatever.
The only
And I
man
was
worth
like, that's
crossing
just
the street for is
the
what she
street
called it.
for. I
Which
was like,
it's such a weird, antiquated phrase that I really think that there's a lot in this script that's fun and very aware. Like
I've actually shifted what my double feature is in having this conversation because I'm realizing there's a better one as we're talking about this for this exact reason, and we'll get into it when we do that section. But yeah, it's like this fun, very 80s version of a 50s movie. Like that's
did you
where
just see it? One of the monsters at the end, Brian?
So I just saw like a skinned cat get.
Okay, so this is where we're going. So here's the thing that we find out about these cockroaches. These cockroaches are basically genetically engineered, and the intention was that they were going to be designed to kill other cockroaches and then die. What happened instead was that every way that you kill those cockroaches, they become immune to that type of kill.
And whatever they eat.
And whatever they eat, they hybrid with. So when they ate that cat, that cockroach that ate the cat now is like, it's like in Aliens where the face hugger just like takes on the characteristics of whatever creature it lands on. So it is a cat cockroach combo that's on the loose. And that's where we get to me the best scene in the movie, which is when our main character Beth's dad has been killed by a cockroach, and he's walking over to her looking very, very sickly when this cockroach just bursts out of his body. Like his he goes to lift his foot, and like the foot stays on the ground, but like a cockroach foot comes out of the bloody stump and shit, and you're just like, this is unbelievable what I'm watching right now.
Yeah, but and then we get like a real. Come back to me for the double feature. There's a double feature. I actually, this wasn't my original double feature. I had a much more recent one.
I have another one too.
I have an 80s style one that when they get to the nest at the end. So the whole point is that like they were going to have the entire island sprayed with this pesticide that is also fatal to humans, but everybody's been eaten, so they're like the remaining survivors, like the 4 of them, with the evil scientist lady, which she is the funniest because she's the only one who doesn't stay in character from the script. Like the script, it's not her acting. She's a fine actor. The script does not keep her as an evil scientist, which I think is very funny. But so the 4 of them are still alive, and the sheriff and Homer, the exterminator, they're trying to like get the lighthouse lit so that they don't spray the island. And the evil scientist and Beth, the female lead, love interest of the sheriff, going to the nest to set off some random ass dynamite that was there, like that she found, which I think is hilarious. And when they get there, we get like these ball sacks hanging from the ceiling.
They're sacks. They're ball sacks.
They're ball sacks. Well, just hanging
a single
from the
ball.
ceiling.
A single ball.
Exactly.
Sack.
Yes, they are just one nut in the sack.
Just a single. If you had 2 scrotums, 1 ball each, that's what's hanging from the ceiling, and it's
they kind of look like a gizzard on a rooster, but with nuts in them.
It was like the same size of like the killer clowns from outer space cotton candy, just testicular.
I was trying not to mention that one, not because it's on my list, but rather because I feel like we're just giving too many 1988 movies.
It's true, but a lot of shout-outs.
But that's where we get the big bad, which is this creature that's essentially made up. Yeah, it's made up of all of the other people in the town that the cockroaches have eaten. And like the way he kills the evil scientist, like rips off her arm, uses his claws to just scalp off the top of her head. It is fucking gnarly. It's great.
Yeah, we get some head trauma in this. It's pretty sweet. Yeah.
This movie, like as I was watching, I was like, man, it is a damn shame that this movie has sat on my shelf for roughly 12 years and that I've watched it twice.
We've been podcasting together, you and me, for 12 fucking years, and it took this long.
It's so good. I'm so glad that I finally kind of, and I only picked it because we're in the 35-year anniversary of the film's release or whatever. I said, fuck it, we'll do the nest for those nest heads that have been waiting.
All you nest heads out there.
They said, oh man, it's 35 years. These motherfuckers better talk about the nest.
They're coming out of the woodwork. That's termites. Never mind.
Yeah, God damn it. All right, well.
I wrote no notes. I just watched flabbergasted. I was like,
when I say no notes for this movie, I mean it in both ways. I have no critique for this movie, and I also took no notes because I was like, I'm just in it for the ride, guys. I watched it last night in the middle of the night, and I was like, I'll watch half of it tonight and watch the other half tomorrow. Nope, whole thing. I am very tired today because I stayed up until 3 a.m. watching this shit.
I really thought it was going to be a sort of second monitor background type thing.
It takes your attention.
I'm so glad it wasn't. I don't care that I didn't get any work done. But now I just downloaded Ghostery, not an ad, and it'll help us. It'll help me get through these a little bit quicker when we watch something on Tubi.
At Maximum Mediocrity, people say things like,
I don't dress like this on the regular basis. This isn't my, pooping uniform. This is not fair.
And they also say things like,
the nurses are usually either angels of mercy or whores.
Every episode is a new experience where you get to know people that aren't famous but should be.
Why am I facing Floyd Mayweather in the woods?
My co-host Morgan and I track down the people you didn't know you needed to hear from.
It's like hot sex in a mug.
We are the Maximum Mediocrity Podcast, and we are on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be waiting for you.
Hi listeners, I'm Carolina.
And I'm Tessa. And together we are Femme Regard Podcast.
Femme
We are a show dedicated to educating and entertaining underdeveloped filmmakers and film enthusiasts alike.
We love sharing our experiences as filmmakers, what we've learned and what we've gone through.
And we love bringing on professional industry guests.
We want our listeners to learn from the best and get an honest account of the biz.
So come join the Fem Fam and give us a listen every Friday.
Streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including YouTube and our website, femregard.com. And of course, the Geekscape Network.
Meanwhile, in New Jersey...
So, Marissa, what talking points do you want to hit on in this week's episode?
Well, Jackie, let's talk about how the film addresses the patriarchy. Ooh, and representation of marginalized people. Ooh, and even philosophical ramifications of good versus evil in horror.
We can point out the triangle boobs, talk about the blood splatter, and the practical effects. And also the male gaze?
My gaze at the males.
Hi-oh! From feminism to fangirling, the Jersey Ghouls cover all the bases of horror from a woman's perspective.
New episodes are uploaded every other Sunday.
Just search Jersey Ghouls to find us on social media and your favorite podcasting app.
I feel like we've been dancing around it long enough. I think it's time to talk about double features.
Yeah, Brian, what's your double feature?
I would double feature this with Joe's Apartment. Because that also
I honestly thought that was going to be Matt's.
It was not. It was not.
Kelly, represent.
Right. I'll explain my double feature by saying what my previous double feature was. So
you can't double feature.
Well, no. You'll listen. I'll double toil and trouble all I want. But the
that was my double feature.
Yeah, the original double feature I had written down was Jaws, because I was like, this movie has like the mayor that's trying to keep the town operational and is ignoring all the stuff that's happening. But then as we talked about it more, I thought, no, it's Tremors. Which Tremors is like the 90s, like they use a lot of the same beats of Jaws in this. And I'm like, but this hits it even more because it's like that super small town. Everybody knows each other. It's like a minimalistic cast. It's very small in its focus. And it has more to do with bugs. So Tremors is my double feature with The Nest.
I am shocked. Well, Kyle, go ahead with your double feature.
I mean, I have three, but I think the one that I'm sticking with is horror movie night favorite. That's Uninvited.
Dude, I knew you were gonna go with The Uninvited. I should have bet money on you.
And listen, this is a way better movie, and I think that the ones that I would maybe otherwise pair it with, maybe a nicer double feature. But I think by the time we finish The Nest and we're amped up, Uninvited is next on my list for sure.
I literally just texted
also
Robert
the Demon
Bacon.
Cat.
Yeah, well, I texted Robert Bacon the other day telling him, because he just did, for his These Two Idiots YouTube series with him and his wife, they watched Love on the Leash, which is a 2011 romantic comedy about a dog that turns into a man at night and the woman who loves him. It's weird. But he's like, I think I want to do more weird pet movies, like maybe 9 Lives or something. And I was like, you should do The Uninvited.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But all right, Scott, what was the double feature you couldn't believe none of us had said?
Well, no, I can't believe you guys didn't say Nightmare 4 with the cockroach kill. But that's not my double feature. My double feature is The Beach House from 2020, I want to say.
Yeah.
You know, like I which would be equally good for next week's pick. I will mention it again next week. But it feels like a more Lovecraftian version of this movie where it's just like, instead of bugs, it's fog.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. All right, well, coming up on the promo segment...
what's going on?
All 4 of the people on this call will be at Creature Feature Weekend this weekend.
Wait.
Brian doesn't have a say in it. No, he's not going to be able to make it, I don't think.
Fucker.
But it is in Gettysburg, and he'll be in Pennsylvania, so maybe.
Doesn't your wife, come from that area?
She does.
He doesn't sound amused, but will be at least 3 of the 4 people on this call will be in Gettysburg. It's going to be on 420, boy.
Oh yeah, I'll be smoking weed.
Period.
Can't make it.
Yeah.
Got plans. But yeah, no, so come see us at Creature Feature Weekend. I'm sure we'll be doing something on Friday night. Saturday night,
Mutilator
maybe,
2 on Saturday, baby.
I was gonna say maybe Saturday night you catch us watching Mutilator 2 in a theater. Who knows?
Yeah, we got a row reserved.
Honestly, Saturday night, I don't know what my choice is going to be at this point because we've got a
If I
pretty
have to
incredible
choose,
performance.
I don't know what I'm going to fucking choose.
Yeah, like it's
That might
like
be
a great
game time decision.
Yeah, we'll see. Or I might honestly choose to go to bed, which tends to be
Just
me by
lose
Saturday
all
night. I'm just like, you know what? I can't choose, so I'm just going to choose neither. I'm gonna watch an episode of Survivor in the hotel room and go to bed.
Yeah, I'm glad I got a hotel room to myself this year.
Yeah, there you go. But yes, that is it. And Kyle, this is coming out on the 18th. Is there still time for any of the stuff you talked about on Instagram today?
Yes. Yeah. So you have now missed the private screenings of Ouchie, but I will have some Ouchie screening news soon for those who might be able to see it. But we are having a public world premiere of Don't Forget to Leave, which is the documentary about Tim Landers of Transit that I've been working on, that I produced and edited. As I'm saying this, the tickets are going on sale tomorrow, so hopefully there are tickets available as I'm preaching here.
Or
but
hopefully
it's gonna
not. Hopefully it was a quick sellout, which is even better.
Yes. There's a hope for you, listener, but there is also a preference that there's no tickets left and it's a sellout. But it's going to be a premiere event, and it's happening at the First Congregational Church in Stoneham, Massachusetts, which is actually the venue space that Tim had gotten his start. Like, all of his bands and all of his friends' bands all played in this. It was fondly remembered as the White Church in Stoneham, Mass. And during that time of the late 2000s, early 2010s, like, that was where everybody in that area played. So it's really special to us to be able to not only screen the film there, but we're also going to have some performances there. Zach Eisenstein from Man Overboard is going to play. Joe Lacey, who was originally in Transit, is going to play, as well as Matthew Spence. So we're going to have some bands there. We're going to have the screening. We'll have some merch. It's like it's our. It's not only
it's a premiere
like
and a
an
basement
homage,
show.
but it's basically it's exactly how we would want to present this. You know what I mean? Like, there's a world, and there's down the line there's obviously going to be screenings in traditional theaters, but like this is what Tim was all about, and this is what kind of we are all about as filmmakers, and what this community is all about. So we're going to be having this premiere event. It's on Eventbrite. You can also find us on Instagram. Don't forget to leave _doc, DOC. That's the best way to probably find us. So if you're near Stoneham, Mass, and you want to come out for a real tearjerker, but a documentary that we're incredibly proud of, and really a kind of a one-of-a-kind event, I'd love to have you there.
All right.
So that's what we got going on. That's April 27th.
And Brian, if people are having a mental health issue in the greater eastern Pennsylvania area, do you got any spots that you can promote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anyone is ever in like a tough spot and they really need a place to go, you don't even have to call. We have this thing where you don't even have to call, just show up. It is.
That's my address.
Now you better fucking add that. You better edit this. Fucker. I knew I was like, if he's giving the address, like, he's not gonna be.
Anyway, the final part of our show, the what did you watch, read, listen to portion. Brian, you haven't been on the show for 2 years. Have you watched, read, or listened to anything in that time that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, I'm trying to think wisely. If this movie's awesome, I'm trying to think of what I want to do, but I think I just have to go with the most recent movie that like may not necessarily be our listeners' cup of tea, but boy did I have a blast, which is the new Roadhouse. It was so ridiculous.
Wow.
Oh yeah, Conor McGregor is without a doubt, and like, think about it. I was on this show for a while. I watched a lot of movies. Conor McGregor is the worst actor I've ever seen in my life, and it's just like, it's so fun over the top. Like, it's just so stupid. It's so stupid. It's so fun. And like for like a high like action movie, it's just one of those like real like low risk movies, because he's just like the best fighter in the world. So it's just like, psh, psh,
yeah,
and then next scene. So I had a blast. My wife wanted to put it on, and she regretted it instantly. And I didn't even want to watch it because I hadn't seen the original in too long. Spoiler alert, I'm just going to let everyone know so you can enjoy the movie, because I was a little let down by this. No throat rips. There's not a throat rip in this version. Man. That was a little bit of a bummer. But the rest of it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was my favorite thing was when people were talking about how dumb the new Roadhouse was, and I thought, like, did you watch the first Roadhouse?
No, they didn't. They absolutely not.
Like, the bar is so low.
That's like trying to make a present day cocktail and being like, oh, these bars aren't like this. And it's like, no.
All right, well, this is rare for me because usually I just give unanimous praise in this segment. I'm going to talk about a movie that not since Ghost Ship has a movie started with so much premise and then squandered it entirely. I'd heard about this movie. I watched it on YouTube. It's a film called Mr. Frost. Have either of you heard of this movie?
Terrible
It's like
name.
an almost completely forgotten movie from 1990 starring Jeff Goldblum. And the movie starts...
Oh, I just saw that the cover, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so the
it's
movie
like, is
starts...
it him with like almost like a star on his eye?
Maybe. I can't remember what
That's
the
what it
poster
is,
even
yeah.
looks like. But the movie starts with these two kids, and they break into this guy's garage, and they're going to steal his car. And when they open the car door, a dead body falls out. And the next day, the police come by, and Jeff Goldblum is working in the garden. And they take him into the house for a cup of tea, and they say, look, this is a weird thing, but we caught these two people who were stealing cars, and when we were interrogating them, they said that they tried to steal your car the other night, and there was a dead body in it. And Jeff Goldblum's character just goes, yeah, I just finished burying him in the backyard. And he's like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, so you killed him? He's like, oh, I've killed a lot of people. There's like 50 bodies back there. He's like, can you show me? He's like, well, it's going to take a while. Can you come back tomorrow? I'll finish digging them all up for you. And like he gets arrested, and then it just jumps to like 2 years later, and he's been institutionalized, but he hasn't spoken. And this woman is like coming to interview this man to figure out his story, because it's just like, why did this guy just turn himself in so easily? Such an interesting, intriguing premise. Then the rest of the movie is that Jeff Goldblum is Satan, and this is all to tempt this woman who's very good. And I'm just like, like, I was just like banging.
That's such a letdown.
Because I was like,
you got
but I was like, God damn, this is such an intrigue. Like the first 15 minutes, I was like, computer down, phone off, like, all right, movie, you've got me. Let's see where this goes. And then just as it kept going, it was like, computer comes back up, start checking my emails. Like, I'm just like, all right, I'm checked out. So, I don't know, watch the first 10 to 15 minutes of Mr. Frost.
And then just believe in yourself and everything.
And then just hop on Wiki and read what happens next and move
on.
The
Wikipedia is very short,
yeah.
by the way. I just read it while you did this whole thing.
Yeah.
So.
It's like 3 paragraphs. You can you can cruise right through it.
It said it was generally received well, though, Matt.
Yeah, well,
times
they
changed,
were dumb
Kyle.
in the night. Yeah, I was going to say the bar of horror quality was very low in 1990.
And it did say it occasionally showed on TV, so...
That's
all right,
definitely
so,
a
listen, you got a lot of sass over there. What did you watch recently?
All this, I mean, this is, you know, there's been so much talk about The Crow. Carly's never seen The Crow. So I made her watch The Crow. And I rewatched The Crow for the, you know, I think... in the original Crow. And I didn't think we're not... Are we planning on talking about it on the show?
We haven't landed on a yes or no on that, but there's almost definitely going to be a soundtracking on Patreon for The Crow when the movie
Can we
comes
just
out.
do the soundtracking and not the movie? Because I don't know if I can handle both.
I feel like I would only want to do one of the shitty sequels that people keep telling us to watch. Like, I want to watch Edward Furlong as the Crow.
I guess I hate to put us on the spot live, but do you? I mean, I will talk about it now.
Well, we're not going to talk about the Crow. That's definitely not.
Yeah,
we'll
never.
You think that's okay?
Yeah,
that's
Matt, you threw that out. I'm pretty sure, by the way, just so you know.
What did you? Was that in that box of DVDs I trashed?
Yeah, I actually stole a copy from Blockbuster. So
of the Crow Wicked Prayer.
No, City of Angels.
Oh, that's not Edward Furlong. Don't worry, that one's.
No, we would track down the other ones, and we will find you. We will find you, Crow.
A third Crow.
There's 4, and now a remake coming out.
I should. But Kyle, should we rewatch The Crow? I think that's what.
Yeah, let's start with that. That's the big question.
It doesn't. It's so difficult. It's not difficult. I shouldn't say this is difficult. But when something doesn't live up to the memory and the energy, particularly a young teenage Kyle put into liking a thing, it hurts a little bit. It stings. It makes me question a few things about my decision making back then. Not significantly, just enough to be like, you were a child. You know what I mean? It's like just the realization that like you are a child. So I think that the Crow premise is great.
Brian, please tell me you're filling a glass of water in the sink and not what I think is happening.
I forgot I wasn't muted. I apologize, guys. It's been a while.
Kyle's pouring out his heart, and you're pouring out your bladder.
Well, I was trying to figure out if he likes it or not.
This reminds me of when I liked The Crow. Just taking a hot piss. No, I just listen. There are things about The Crow that I still like. There are moments, but then I don't know. Just watching it again, I realized how. I think visually it's very fun. I mean, it feels like a dark comic. Like it feels like all of those. There's a lot of comic leaning things and framing and shots that I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, and in particular, like the color too. Like, it just feels like a dark comic, which I can appreciate. But I think that the movie also gets, whether it was known or not, gets sort of just jumbled in this angsty, cool.
Yeah.
But then also, like, you have an actor who died on the thing, and, like, how do you make a finished product with that? Like, there's those moments that, like, they're trying to be like, in honor of Brandon Lee. And I'm like, it, like, takes me out of it, honestly. And I remember, and that's the way it was supposed to make you feel. It was supposed to make you connect to the movie. And I did when I was a teenager. Now, I feel like, hey, that doesn't make it a great movie. Like, Brandon Lee doesn't do a lot for me. Like, he's just kind of there, you know what I mean? And I feel like it could be anyone.
Yeah.
I feel like it could literally be anyone.
I rewatched it for the first time in a really long time this October, and I genuinely couldn't tell you what happened in like I feel like it's wildly forgettable to me now. Like, I was like, oh, that was like because like so much of it is just like nondescript action scenes.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, all right.
I feel like I used to remember. I feel like if you asked me without watching it, I'd be like, yeah, I remember every kill. Like, I remember like every like show. You know what I mean?
I only remember him taking the drugs out of the girl's arm. That's literally the only thing that I remember from that movie.
I don't remember.
I forgot about that until it happened.
Oh my God.
And then I was like, oh yeah, the molasses coming out of her arm. I remember that now. And I just like,
it's
heroin. Carly's just looking at me because, you know, like, we start dating a year later. You know, I still maybe have my Crow hoodie. I maybe don't. Like, I don't know. You know, there's a fine line between when we started, dating. So she's familiar with this version of Kyle, but not familiar with sort of like the little details and the sprinklings of interests and things. And it's just like, and God bless my sister. She's 9 years younger than me. She loves The Crow, and I think that she loved it because I loved it at a time, and now it also is like a relatable thing with her. And I don't know if she's revisited it as a young adult woman, but doesn't hold up.
Kyle, let me ask you one last question, then we'll go to Scott.
Yeah.
Do you think that secretly you just like The Crow because you love the wrestler Sting so much?
Yeah.
Randomly takes off his mask, and it's just a mask from Sting, and then Sting
That's
takes
also
off his
why I
mask,
watched
and
The
it's
Crow,
another
'cause-
Sting mask.
And it's just another sequel and another sequel and another sequel. And
there's Edward
and-
Furlong
and-
on there somewhere.
And I watched it because Sting retired. That's why I watched
That's
it.
what that makes sense. All right,
It wasn't
Scott,
for
take us home.
Hold on,
buddy.
before we go to Scott, it's Kyle, because we're closer to the same age, and I was a big Crow guy too. But I don't remember anything about The Crow. But I also really got into, like, if we did Crow, the double feature for Crow for me would be The Salton Sea, because I used to watch that movie a lot too, and I don't remember. I think Val Kilmer's the star.
The Salton Sea?
Trumpet.
The
Yeah,
Salton
there's a trumpet
Sea.
involved.
God, you did love The Salton Sea. I've
That's
still
such
never
a
seen that movie, but
weird
you've told me to
vibe,
watch
like-
it a million times.
And
Who
I
watches
don't-
the Salton Sea more than once? Besides the
Oh
guy
my
who
God,
edited
I watched it all the time. I thought it was so good, and I don't remember anything but a trumpet and a dead wife.
Well, it's like Little Man Tate for me. Like, I watched Little Man Tate obsessively as a child.
Yeah.
No fucking reason why. I don't know why.
No, and this is. I mean, I feel like people. There's the Salton Sea. Maybe not so much, but like there's a version of this where people love the Boondock Saints, right? Like there was a world where people fucking watched the Boondock.
Well,
I mean,
you have
even
to-
Donnie Darko to an extent.
Well,
you know what I
Boondock
mean?
Saints
Like
more than anything got a huge bump because Bleeding Through used a bunch of quotes from that in This Is Love, This Is Murderous, and so it got like all the hardcore guys were like, "Oh, it's a fucking great movie," blah blah. Like it's not actually a great movie. It's just it got a signal boost by one of their favorite bands. You know?
Look, Donnie Darko also was the first time that I realized that maybe the director's cut isn't necessarily the better version of the
Oh,
movie.
the 3-hour version was not.
Because when I was like, oh, you know what Donnie Darko didn't need? This explained to me. Like, the mystery of the movie is actually why it's appealing, and the second that you're like, it's aliens guiding everything, I'm just kind of like, you know what, I'm out.
And I realize that I'm referencing movies, like we're referencing movies that are like maybe 5, 7, 10 years late after The Crow. So there is something to be said about that.
every 5 to 10 years, there's that new movie.
Yeah.
Like Brian, I remember Brian was telling
I'd love
me,
to see a new Crow. I'm very excited to see the new Crow after watching the old Crow.
Brian, do you remember this? It was when you were still using and you were going to like some drug counselor and he made you watch a bunch of random movies, and it was like he made you watch Requiem for a Dream.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some random movie that had nothing to do with drugs, and I remember your joke was always that he was like, I think he just found out that I had a Scarface poster and a Boondock Saints poster, and he was trying to educate me on real film because it was like
my God, it was like 21. I think that's what it was. It was 21.
It was 21.
It was 21. It was the gambling movie.
That addiction counselor, bless them, has a repertoire of films and was just like, okay, here's another one that I like.
He's like, it was
do you want
wild.
to hang out? Or like,
do you want to watch it together?
No, so I was a Boondock
Two
Saints
sessions?
fan, right? When I was
Boy, were you.
when I was 15, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what 15-year-old boys did.
I failed video journalism because of this teacher that was, without a doubt, like the most racist person ever. The way he like got
What does
away
that have to
with
do
just,
with
like,
Boondock Saints, though?
Well,
because me and you picked a partner, and that was your partner for the year, and my partner was like Khalil, and he would make these comments like, "You're not black. Stop pretending that you're black." Like he would say that to him, but he was the most arrogant person. So he failed me because we had to do a report on like films that were important to like cinema or like change cinema or something like that, like something about cult classics or something along those lines. And he essentially said that it wasn't a film, and it had no relevance towards the film industry or whatever. So he failed me.
Yeah, you can find an interview of Jonathan berating the director of Boondock Saints deep in the Geekscape back catalog. Because that guy,
you can't say that movie doesn't have any relevance when there's all like how many movies have a documentary about the making of the movie that is separate from the movie and not a special feature on the movie is like, there's a relevance there.
So I'll tell this very quick story. You can try to find the interview and see it for yourself, but Jonathan had landed this interview with Troy Duffy, who is infamously a very difficult person to work with. And they used to film in Jonathan's office. And like the first half of the interview's going great. He's there promoting Boondock Saints 2 at the time, but he's like, do you have any other ideas coming up? And he's like, well, I'm working on this idea that's not in the Boondock Saints world, but it is about 2 Catholic priests who start killing people when they think that their sins are too egregious. And Jonathan doesn't say anything. He lets it slide, but like that's basically just another Boondock Saints movie.
Yeah.
So the interview completely changes tone out of nowhere when Troy Duffy sees that John has a film school degree on his wall.
Oh, no.
And he's like, oh, you're one of those guys. And John's like, what? And he's like, oh, you went to film school instead of teaching yourself how to do it like I did. And John says, yeah, I could have saved a lot of money making the same movie 3 times for a Juggalo audience.
My God.
And then it's just like it is an uncomfortable screaming match for like 5 minutes. And the whole time that this is happening, the actor who played Rocco in the first movie is also there. And he just gets up, walks away, and starts looking at a poster on John's wall in the video. And he's just like, man, this is a cool poster. Like, he's just like, keep me out of this as much as humanly possible. But anyway, that's a lot of sidetracks for Scott. What is something you want to talk about?
We watched The Sting. It was my first time watching The Sting. 1973 is fantastic. I loved every
that
It's
is
a great movie.
It's not my type of movie at all. But Megan was like, "Do you want to watch The Sting?" And I was like, "Sure." It seemed like a good idea, and it was. And the thing that
Do you have The Entertainer stuck in your head now? Because I always do after I watch The Sting.
Listen, I have The Entertainer stuck in my head anyway, so it didn't really do much to my mental health in that way. But what I will say is that the other best part about that movie, beyond how great of a watch that was, is that Megan starts the movie and she's like, oh, Robert Redford, oh, sexiest man in cinema history. Oh, he could do anything he wants to me. And then fucking Paul Newman. And I'm like, but isn't Paul Newman in this movie? And then when Paul Newman comes up and he's wearing a a white tank top with suspenders, she goes, and he's like, he's got his arms out, and she goes, oh, Paul Newman. Oh, yeah, I picked Paul Newman because Robert Redford, women just throw themselves at you. He doesn't know what he's doing in the bedroom. And I was like, that's right, baby. So I feel like I am vindicated as the skinnier, not sexy of the two, less sexy of the two. Plus, Paul Newman was a really good dude, very philanthropic. So I know that makes women very interested in you, and I am very happy with my choice in women.
Wait, so Megan said because women just throw themselves at them, he's not very good in the bedroom?
Yeah, he takes it for granted.
Yeah, well, he's not trying anymore. That's a little
flawed theory because women don't throw themselves at me, and I'm terrible in the bedroom.
You just got to apply yourself. There are books. There are so many books. Let me see. Send me a new address. Jake can thank me later.
I produce a lot of podcasts that can help you out too. So just like any other time that Brian's on here, completely off the rails, but we did watch The Nest. We highly recommend you also watch The Nest. It was a blast. I think Brian loved it more than all of us combined. And we will be back next week with another film that takes place in a weird small town with a bunch of crazy shit happening in it.
Just a small town film.
At Maximum Mediocrity, people say things like,
I don't dress like this on the regular basis. This isn't my, pooping uniform. This is not
and they also say things like,
the nurses are usually either angels of mercy or whores.
Every episode is a new experience where you get to know people that aren't famous but should be.
Why did my
facing Floyd Mayweather in the woods.
My co-host Morgan and I track down the people you didn't know you needed to hear from.
It's like hot sex in a mug.
We are the Maximum Mediocrity Podcast, and we are on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be waiting for you.
Hi, listeners. I'm Carolina.
And I'm Tessa. And together we are Femme Regard Podcast.
Femme.
We are a show dedicated to educating and entertaining underdeveloped filmmakers and film enthusiasts alike.
We love sharing our experiences as filmmakers, what we've learned and what we've gone through.
And we love bringing on professional industry guests.
We want our listeners to learn from the best and get an honest account of the biz.
So come join the Femme Fam and give us a listen every Friday.
Streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including YouTube and our website, femregard.com, and of course, the Geekscape Network.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.